Welcome back to Stamps Old World U.S. Today we are exploring one of the most famous and recognizable United States commemorative stamps ever issued, the 1940 Pony Express 80th Anniversary 3-cent stamp. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary vintage stamp, but behind this beautiful design lies an incredible story of courage, speed, American history, and a collector's market that continues to attract stamp enthusiasts around the world. If you enjoy learning about rare stamps, hidden treasures, and their current market values, then make sure to watch this video until the very end because today's estimated values may surprise you. The stamp you are looking at was issued by the United States Post Office on April 3, 1940, to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the legendary Pony Express. The Pony Express operated from 1860 to 1861 and became one of the most famous mail delivery services in American history. Although it only lasted for about 18 months, it forever changed the way mail was transported across the American frontier. Brave young riders carried letters over nearly 2,000 miles between Missouri and California, riding day and night through dangerous weather, mountains, deserts, and territories filled with risks. Their courage became a symbol of determination and American expansion. The design of this 3-cent commemorative stamp captures the excitement of the Pony Express perfectly. The center of the stamp shows a rider racing at full speed on horseback while carrying the mail across the American landscape. The left side displays the year 1860, marking the beginning of the Pony Express service, while the right side displays the year 1940, celebrating its 80th anniversary. At the top of the design appears the inscription United States Postage, while the bottom proudly reads Pony Express 80th Anniversary. The stamp was printed in a beautiful reddish-brown, color that gives it a classic vintage. Appearance admired by collectors even today. Millions of these stamps were printed because they were intended for everyday postal use. Since such a large quantity entered circulation, most surviving examples are quite common. However, condition plays a huge role in determining value. A heavily used stamp with missing perforations, fading, creases, or tears is worth much less than a perfectly preserved example with bright color, sharp corners, and original gum. Collectors often search for mint never-hinged examples because these stamps have never been attached to an album with hinges. They retain their original gum exactly as it left the printing press. These are considered premium examples and usually command much stronger prices in today's philatelic market. Well-centered stamps with perfectly balanced margins are especially desirable because centering significantly affects value. Now let's discuss the current market value in today's United States stamp market. A used Pony Express 80th anniversary stamp with a clear cancellation generally sells for around $1 to $5, depending on its overall condition and centering. A clean used copy with excellent eye appeal can sometimes reach slightly higher prices, especially if certified or sold through a respected stamp dealer. A mint-hinged example usually sells between $5 and $15 depending on its quality. If the stamp has exceptionally fresh color and attractive centering, collectors may willingly pay toward the upper end of that range. Mint never-hinged examples are more desirable and generally sell for around $15 to $40, especially when professionally graded or preserved in excellent condition. Very fine examples with outstanding centering and expert grading can sell for $50, $100, or even several $100s depending on the assigned grade. Professional grading companies carefully evaluate centering, gum quality, freshness, perforations, and overall appearance. A stamp receiving an extremely high numerical grade becomes much scarcer than an ordinary copy, even though millions were originally printed. If the stamp is found as part of a complete commemorative sheet with full original margins and pristine gum, collectors may pay significantly more. Complete sheets are increasingly difficult to locate in exceptional condition because many were separated into individual stamps decades ago. Well-preserved sheets often appeal to advanced collectors and investors looking for attractive display pieces. One exciting area that always attracts collector attention is printing errors and varieties. While normal Pony Express stamps remain relatively affordable, unusual production mistakes can become extremely valuable. Collectors search for dramatic color shifts, missing colors, double impressions, inverted elements, misperforations, or other authentic printing varieties. Genuine errors certified by recognized experts may sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their rarity and demand. However, true errors are exceptionally rare, so every unusual-looking stamp should be examined carefully by a professional expert before assuming it has extraordinary value. Another factor affecting value is provenance. If a particular stamp once belonged to a famous philatelist or appeared in a prestigious collection, collectors may be willing to pay a premium. Historical documentation, auction records, and certificates of authenticity can greatly increase buyer confidence and market interest. When examining your own Pony Express stamp, pay close attention to several important details. Look for bright original color, complete perforations on every side, no creases or tears, no stains, balanced margins, and clean original gum if the stamp is unused. Even small differences in condition can dramatically influence the final selling price. Many collectors overlook these details, but experienced buyers evaluate every aspect before making an offer. If you inherited an old stamp album from your parents or grandparents, do not assume every stamp is common or every stamp is rare. Collections assembled many decades ago sometimes contain overlooked treasures hidden among ordinary stamps. Taking time to examine each stamp carefully could reveal varieties, premium grades, or scarce issues that deserve professional evaluation. The Pony Express stamp remains one of the most popular United States commemorative issues because it combines fascinating American history with beautiful artwork. Even collectors who specialize in transportation, horses, Western history, postal history, or classic American commemoratives often include this stamp in their collections. Its historical importance ensures that interest continues generation after generation. Although this stamp is generally affordable for beginning collectors, exceptional examples continue to perform well in the collector market. High-grade certified copies remain highly sought after because very few survive in flawless condition. As more collectors appreciate quality over quantity, premium examples often attract stronger competition at major stamp auctions. If you own one of these stamps, avoid touching the surface with your fingers. Always use stamp tongs to prevent oils from damaging the paper or gum. Store the stamp in acid-free albums or protective mounts away from sunlight, moisture, and excessive heat. Proper storage helps preserve both beauty and long-term value. The stamp market changes over time based on collector demand, auction activity, and the availability of premium quality examples. While ordinary copies may remain relatively inexpensive, exceptional certified examples and authentic printing errors continue to attract serious collectors willing to pay substantial prices. Staying informed about current auction results is one of the best ways to understand the true value of your collection. Next up, the famous 1918 24-cent Curtis Jenny Airmail stamp. This stamp is recognized around the world and has become one of the greatest icons in Philately. While millions of collectors know its name, very few truly understand its history, its importance, and how much different versions of this stamp can actually be worth today. Stay with us until the end because today's market values may surprise you, especially if you happen to own an original example. The story of this remarkable stamp begins during one of the most exciting periods in transportation history. In 1918, aviation was still in its infancy. Airplanes had only recently proven themselves during World War I, and commercial aviation was almost non-existent. The United States Post Office wanted to revolutionize mail delivery by introducing the country's first regularly scheduled airmail service. To celebrate this historic achievement, the government issued a brand new 24-cent airmail stamp on May 13, 1918. The design immediately captured public attention. At the center of the stamp appears the famous Curtiss JN-4 airplane, better known as the Curtiss Jenny. This aircraft was one of the most important training airplanes in American aviation history. The airplane is printed in deep blue, while the outer frame is printed in bright carmine red, creating one of the most beautiful two-color stamp designs ever produced by the United States. The simple yet elegant appearance has remained one of the most recognizable images in stamp collecting for more than 100 years. Although the stamp itself is famous, The real reason it became legendary is because of one of the greatest printing mistakes in philatelic history. During production, a single sheet of 100 stamps accidentally had the blue airplane printed upside down while the red frame remained correctly positioned. This accidental printing error created what collectors now call the inverted Jenny. Only one sheet of 100 inverted stamps was ever discovered, making it one of the rarest and most celebrated stamp errors in the entire world. Today, the inverted Jenny is considered the crown jewel of American philately. Every one of the original 100 error stamps has been carefully documented, tracked, and studied for decades. Some have disappeared, others have been recovered after theft, and many now reside in museums or prestigious private collections. Whenever one appears at auction, collectors around the world pay close attention. Now, let's talk about today's market values. It is important to understand that there are enormous differences between the ordinary Curtis Jenny stamp and the famous inverted Jenny error. Most collectors own the normal version, which has the airplane printed correctly. A used example of the regular 1918 24-cent Curtis Jenny stamp generally sells for approximately $40 to $150 depending on condition, centering, cancellation quality, and overall eye appeal. A mint-hinged example with original gum usually sells between $150 and $400. Better centered examples with fresh color often bring even stronger prices because collectors highly value attractive presentation. A mint never-hinged example in exceptional condition can easily sell for $500 to $2,000 or more, depending upon centering, gum quality, and whether it has received professional grading. High-grade certified examples issued by recognized grading services continue to attract serious collectors from around the world. Now comes the legendary rarity that every collector dreams of finding. A genuine 1918 inverted Jenny error is worth an extraordinary amount of money. Individual examples have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, while the finest examples have exceeded $1 million at major international stamp auctions. Some especially famous copies with unique histories have achieved prices well above $2 million. Because of their tremendous value, every known example has been carefully photographed, documented, and authenticated by experts. Many people discover old family stamp collections and immediately wonder whether they might own an inverted Jenny. While that possibility is extremely exciting, it is also incredibly unlikely because every genuine example has already been recorded. Nevertheless, if you ever encounter what appears to be an inverted airplane on an original 1918 Airmail stamp, it should immediately be examined by a certified philatelic expert. Never attempt to repair, clean, or alter an old stamp because doing so can permanently reduce its value. Collectors also look closely at centering. Even ordinary Curtis Jenny stamps can become much more valuable if the design is perfectly centered with wide, balanced margins. Professional grading companies assign numerical grades that significantly influence auction prices. A perfectly centered stamp with bright colors and flawless gum may sell for several times more than an average example. Condition remains the single most important factor affecting value. Collectors carefully inspect perforations, gum, paper quality, freshness of color, cancellations, tears, creases, stains, thinning, and repairs. Even tiny flaws can reduce value dramatically, while pristine examples command premium prices. Another interesting feature of this issue is that it marked the birth of American airmail collecting. Many collectors specialize exclusively in aviation stamps, and the Curtis Jenny stands proudly at the beginning of that story. Its combination of aviation history, postal innovation, and legendary rarity ensures that demand remains strong even more than 100 years after its release. Over the decades, counterfeit inverted Jenny stamps have appeared in the marketplace. Some were created to deceive collectors, while others were made simply as souvenirs. This is why expert certificates from respected philatelic organizations are essential whenever dealing with expensive examples. Authentication protects both buyers and sellers and helps preserve confidence in the rare stamp market. If you inherited an old stamp album from your parents or grandparents, take your time examining every page carefully. Many valuable stamps hide among ordinary collections because earlier generations often purchased commemorative issues directly from the post office and stored them safely for decades. Even if you do not discover an inverted Jenny, you may still own valuable classic United States stamps worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Proper storage is equally important. Always handle stamps using stamp tongs rather than your fingers. Store them inside acid-free albums or protective mounts, keeping them away from direct sunlight, moisture, and extreme temperatures. These simple precautions help preserve both beauty and long-term market value. The market for classic United States stamps continues to attract collectors from every continent. Auction houses regularly feature high-quality Curtis Jenny examples, and competition among collectors remains strong whenever premium copies become available. While ordinary examples remain affordable for many collectors, exceptional high-grade copies continue to appreciate because truly outstanding condition becomes increasingly scarce with each passing generation. Next up, the beautiful 10-cent George Washington stamp, originally issued during the late 1860s. While it may appear to be a simple green postage stamp, it represents an important chapter in American postal history and can be surprisingly valuable depending on its condition, rarity, and variety. Make sure you stay until the end, because today's market values may be much higher than you expect. The story of this remarkable stamp begins shortly after the American Civil War, a time when the United States was rebuilding its economy, expanding westward, and modernizing its postal system. During this period, the United States Post Office introduced a new series of definitive stamps featuring some of the nation's most respected historical figures. Among them, no individual was more deserving than George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the founding fathers of the nation. The 10-cent denomination served an important purpose in the postal system of the 19th century. It was commonly used to pay higher postage rates for heavier letters, overseas correspondence, registered mail, and other special postal services. Because of its practical use, many examples entered circulation, but only a small percentage have survived in outstanding condition after more than a century and a half. The design of the stamp is both elegant and timeless. At the center is a finely engraved portrait of George Washington facing left, surrounded by an ornate oval frame filled with decorative scrollwork and stars. The words U.S. postage appear prominently across the top, while the value 10 cents is displayed at the bottom. The rich green color gives the stamp a distinguished appearance that has made it a favorite among collectors of classic United States. Philately. One of the reasons this stamp remains so fascinating is that several different printings, papers, grills, shades, and perforation varieties exist. During the late 1860s, the United States experimented with special embossed patterns known as grills. These tiny embossed squares were intended to allow cancellation ink to penetrate the paper more effectively and discourage the reuse of stamps. Today, collectors carefully examine these grill patterns because certain varieties are considerably scarcer than others. If you own one of these stamps, the very first thing you should determine is whether it has a grill. Under proper lighting or magnification, the grill appears as a pattern of tiny raised or indented squares on the paper. Different grill types, such as A grill, B grill, C grill, D grill, E grill, F grill, G grill, H grill, I grill, and Z grill, can have dramatically different market values. Some are relatively common, while others rank among the rarest United States stamps ever produced. Now let's discuss the current market value in today's collector market. A used 10-cent George Washington stamp from this period, with average centering, clear cancellation, and ordinary condition generally sells between $30 and $150. These are the examples most commonly found in older collections. A well-preserved used example with attractive color, balanced centering, and light cancellation often brings between $200 and $500. Collectors appreciate stamps that display the portrait clearly without heavy postmark interference, mint. Examples are significantly more valuable because relatively few survived with their original gum intact. A mint-hinged example usually sells between $600 and $2,000, depending on condition, centering, and the specific variety. Mint never-hinged examples are extremely scarce. If professionally authenticated and graded, they may sell for $3,000 to over $10,000. especially if they possess exceptional centering and fresh original gum. Now let's talk about the truly rare varieties. Certain grill types, unusual shades, printing errors, or scarce perforation varieties can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Some of the rarest certified examples from this series have sold at major international auctions for more than $50,000, while the rarest grill varieties have achieved prices reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars. The exact value depends entirely upon the specific variety, authenticity, condition, and collector demand. Professional grading plays a major role in determining value. Organizations such as the Philately Foundation and professional stamp experts carefully examine every detail of a stamp before issuing certificates of authenticity. A certified high-grade example often sells for substantially more than an uncertified stamp because buyers have confidence in its authenticity and quality. Condition remains the most important factor influencing price. Collectors carefully inspect perforations, paper quality, freshness of color, centering, cancellations, creases, tears, thin spots, repairs, and gum condition. Even tiny imperfections can reduce market value, while flawless examples command premium prices. Another factor that influences value is centering. Many 19th century stamps were not perfectly centered during production. A stamp with wide, balanced margins on all four sides is much more desirable than one where the design touches or nearly touches the perforations. Superior centering often increases value several times over. If you inherited an old family stamp album, never assume these classic Washington stamps are ordinary. Many collections assembled by grandparents and great-grandparents contain overlooked treasures. Some collectors purchased better quality examples directly from dealers decades ago when prices were much lower. Today, those same stamps may be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Proper preservation is essential for maintaining long-term value. Always handle stamps with stamp tongs rather than your fingers to avoid transferring oils onto the paper. Store them in acid-free albums or protective mounts, keeping them away from sunlight, moisture, humidity, and extreme temperatures. These simple precautions help preserve both beauty and investment potential. The market for classic United States stamps remain strong because collectors around the world appreciate America's early postal history. Demand for high-quality 19th century Washington issues continues to grow as premium examples become increasingly difficult to locate. Auction houses regularly feature exceptional specimens, attracting competitive bidding from collectors and investors alike. One important piece of advice is never to clean, soak, repair, or alter an old stamp in hopes of increasing its value. Even well-intentioned cleaning can permanently damage the paper, remove original gum, or reduce collector appeal. If you believe your stamp may be valuable, the best decision is to have it examined by a recognized philatelic expert before taking any action. Whether your Cent George Washington stamp is worth a few dollars or several $1,000s, it represents an extraordinary piece of American history. Every stamp carries a story of communication, craftsmanship, and the growth of a young nation. That historical significance is one of the reasons collectors continue searching for these beautiful classics generation after generation. Thank you for watching another episode of Stamps Old World U.S. I hope you enjoyed learning about the history and today's market value of the 1867-1868 U.S. 10-cent George Washington stamp. If you enjoy discovering rare American stamps, hidden collectibles, auction records, and current market values in U.S. dollars, be sure to subscribe to Stamps Old World U.S. Like this video, share it with fellow collectors, and turn on notifications so you never miss another exciting stamp story. Every old stamp has a history, and one forgotten stamp in an old album could become the next great treasure waiting to be discovered. Happy collecting, and I'll see you in the next video.